The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Representatives from 47 different star systems sat in their floating chairs, all staring at the massive screen showing the destruction. Red dots covered half the galaxy map. Each dot meant a dead world. Ambassador Zexthai stood at the center of the hall. Her blue crystal skin, normally bright and shining, looked dull and tired. She had not slept in 3 days. None of them had. "The Devourers have taken the Proxima sector," she announced. Her voice echoed in the silent hall. "That makes 15 complete systems in the last month." A representative from the bird-like Altarians raised his feathered hand. "How many survivors?" "None," Zexthai replied. "The Devourers leave nothing behind. They eat the planets, the moons, even the space stations. Then they build more of themselves from what they consumed." Fear filled the hall like a cold wind. These aliens had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had solved every problem with careful planning and smart thinking. But the Devourers were different. They could not be reasoned with. They could not be stopped. The Devourers were machines, but not normal machines. They were smart, fast, and hungry. Each one was the size of a building and covered in weapons. They moved through space like a swarm of metal insects. When they found a world with life, they landed and began eating everything. The metal, the water, the air, even the people. Then they used what they ate to make more Devourers. "Our fleets cannot stop them," admitted General Korath of the Centauri Defense Force. His 6 arms moved nervously as he spoke. "We destroyed 1,000 of them at Beta Colony, but they just made 2,000 more from the wreckage." "What about the weapon research?" asked someone from the back. "Failed," Zexthai said sadly. "Every weapon we build, they adapt to. Every strategy we try, they counter. They learn faster than we can develop new ideas." The hall fell silent again. Outside the great windows, the lights of the Council's homeworld twinkled peacefully. But everyone knew that peace would not last long. The Devourers were coming. An old representative from the peaceful vegan system stood up slowly. "Perhaps," he said in a weak voice, "we should consider asking the humans for help." The suggestion hit the hall like a bomb. Several representatives gasped. Others looked shocked. The Altaran delegate made a sound like an angry bird. "The humans?" General Korath's voice was full of disgust. "Those violent barbarians? They have been locked in their home system for good reason." Zexthai remembered the human contact incident 20 years ago. A galactic patrol ship had approached Earth to make first contact. The humans had responded by firing something called a nuclear torpedo at the ship. The weapon had not destroyed the patrol ship, but it had melted half of it. The human message afterward was simple. "Next time we aim to kill." "They are too dangerous," continued General Korath. "Humans solve every problem with violence. They fight each other for sport. They create weapons for fun. We contain them for the safety of the galaxy." "But they are effective fighters," said the vegan representative quietly. "Perhaps what we need right now is not safety, but effectiveness." The debate went on for hours. Some representatives argued that asking humans for help was too risky. Others said it was their only choice. Finally, Zexthai called for a vote. The result was close but clear. The Galactic Council would ask humanity for help. Zexthai composed the message herself. She kept it simple and direct, the way humans seemed to prefer. "Galactic Council to Earth Government. We face extinction from an enemy called the Devourers. Our military forces have failed. We request military support. Will you help us?" She sent the message through the quantum communication network. The signal would reach Earth in seconds, but she expected to wait days or weeks for a reply. Humans were known to be slow decision-makers when it came to politics. The reply came back in 2 hours. The human face on the screen was weathered and scarred. The woman looked like she had been in many fights. Her hair was gray and her eyes were cold as winter. She wore a military uniform covered in symbols that looked like weapons. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Force," the woman said. "We received your message about the Devourers. We have been watching your situation with interest." Zexthai felt a chill. The humans had been watching? How long had they been able to see beyond their system? "We are willing to provide military assistance," Admiral Chen continued. "But understand this, we don't do support. We do solutions. If you want our help, you get our methods. Are you prepared for that?" Before Zexthai could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the council hall. The main screen switched to show a fleet emerging from hyperspace near the Council's homeworld. But these were not Devourer ships. They were human ships. The vessels were massive, angular, and covered in armor plating. They looked like they had been built for war and nothing else. Energy readings showed weapon systems that the Council's scanners could barely identify. Most disturbing of all, the ships had names painted on their hulls in human writing: Retribution, Vengeance, Fury, and Reckoning. How did they get here so fast? Whispered General Korath. Admiral Chen's image smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. We've had ships stationed outside your system for years, just in case you ever needed our particular skill set. Zexthai realized that humanity had never really been contained. They had been waiting, watching, preparing. Admiral Chen, she said carefully, what do you need from us? Information about the Devourers, ship specifications, battle records, survivor reports if any exist, and most importantly, we need to know how they reproduce. They convert matter into new units using some kind of molecular assembly process, Zexthai replied. Admiral Chen's smile grew wider. Perfect. Predictable enemies are dead enemies. We'll start with a demonstration. Pick a system under attack. The Kepler 442 system, Zexthai said without thinking. 3 million civilians are trapped there. Not for long, Admiral Chen said. The communication ended. Through the great windows, Zexthai watched the human fleet turn and disappear into hyperspace. The ships moved with purpose and speed that seemed almost alive. General Korath approached her, his 6 arms trembling. What have we done? He whispered. Zexthai stared at the empty space where the human ships had been. She thought about the Devourers, unstoppable and hungry, consuming everything in their path. Then she thought about Admiral Chen's cold smile and the names on those warships. I think, she said quietly, we may have just introduced the Devourers to something worse than themselves. The council hall remained silent, but now the silence felt different. It was not the silence of fear or defeat. It was the silence that comes before a storm. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity was about to show the galaxy what they did to things that threatened their allies. The war was about to change forever. The human fleet arrived at Kepler 442 like a storm breaking against the shore. Ambassador Zexthai watched from the council observation ship as dozens of human vessels dropped out of hyperspace directly into the battle zone. The Galactic Defense Force had been fighting the Devourers for 6 days, trying to buy time for civilian evacuation ships. By the void, whispered Commander Rexel of the Altarian Defense Corps. They came straight into the combat area. No formation, no scanning, no preparation. Admiral Sarah Chen's flagship, the massive UES Retribution, led the human formation. The ship was 3 times larger than any council vessel and covered in weapon systems that the aliens could not identify. Scorch marks and impact craters covered its hull, telling stories of previous battles. All council ships, this is Admiral Chen, came the human commander's voice over the communication system. Pull your forces back to minimum safe distance. We're about to demonstrate human problem-solving techniques. Admiral, there are still civilian ships in the evacuation zone, Commander Rexel protested. Our protocols require careful coordination to avoid friendly fire incidents. There was a pause. Then Admiral Chen's voice returned, and it sounded almost amused. Commander, in about 30 seconds, friendly fire will be the least of your concerns. Trust me and pull back. The council ships reluctantly moved to a safer distance. Through the observation windows, Zexthai could see the Devourer swarm spreading across the system like a metal plague. Hundreds of the massive machines were stripping apart asteroids and small moons, growing their numbers with each passing hour. What happened next challenged everything the aliens thought they knew about warfare. The human ships did not form defensive lines or execute careful tactical maneuvers. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the densest concentration of Devourers, weapons firing before they were even in optimal range. The sound that came through their ship's communication systems was something the aliens had never heard in battle before. Music. It was loud, aggressive, and somehow perfectly matched to the rhythm of the human weapon fire. The thunderous noise filled the communication channels as human fighters screamed past council ships like metal comets. What is that sound? Asked Zexthai. We call it war music, Admiral Chen replied. It helps with timing and morale. Every species fights differently. This is how humans fight. The first human fighters reached the Devourer swarm and immediately proved that human tactics were unlike anything in the Council military handbooks. Instead of careful, precise strikes designed to disable enemy systems, the humans used weapons that seemed designed to completely destroy everything they touched. Streams of superheated plasma turned Devourer units into expanding clouds of vapor. Projectile weapons fired metal slugs that punched clean through multiple enemies before exploding. Most shocking of all, when human fighters ran low on ammunition, they rammed their ships directly into Devourer units. Are they insane? Commander Rexel stared at his scanner readings. That pilot just crashed his fighter into 3 Devourers. Deliberately. Negative, Commander, came a human voice over the communication system. That's called a kinetic kill vehicle. Pilot ejected 2 seconds before impact. Standard procedure. On the main screen, Zexthai watched in fascination as human rescue ships swept through the battle zone, collecting ejected pilots while continuing to fire at enemy targets. The humans treated what should have been desperate life-or-death situations as routine operations. But it was the human ground assault that truly disturbed the Council observers. When Devourers landed on the system's inhabited moon, the Galactic Defense Force had prepared for a careful evacuation of the underground cities. The standard protocol was room-by-room clearance, using non-destructive weapons to avoid damaging the civilian shelters. The human Marines had different ideas. Instead of careful clearance operations, they used explosives. Where Council forces would cut through walls with precision tools, humans blasted holes with charges powerful enough to collapse small buildings. Where alien soldiers would use stunning weapons to disable Devourers, humans used fire. They're using incendiary weapons in civilian areas, reported Commander Rexel with horror. The heat signatures are off our scales. The civilians are safe, Admiral Chen replied calmly. Human engineers surveyed the underground cities before we began the assault. Every charge is precisely placed to avoid damaging civilian shelters while maximizing enemy casualties. But the destruction can be repaired, Admiral Chen finished. Dead people cannot. The human assault teams moved through the moon's cities like forces of nature. They laughed while firing weapons that turned Devourers into melted metal. They shouted encouragement to each other while throwing explosives that shook the ground for kilometers. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to be enjoying themselves. Commander Reeves to Admiral Chen, came a voice from the surface. We've secured sectors 7 through 12. Civilians are safe, and we've got a present for the science team. What kind of present, Commander? 3 intact Devourer units. Disabled but not destroyed. The tech boys are going to love this. Zexthai felt a chill run through her crystal body. Admiral Chen, the Devourers cannot be safely captured. They will adapt to any containment system. Not if they're contained properly, Admiral Chen replied. Human containment systems are somewhat more permanent than what you're probably used to. The battle lasted 4 more hours. When it ended, the Devourer swarm that had threatened to consume the entire system was completely destroyed. Not damaged, not scattered. Destroyed so thoroughly that even their molecular recycling systems could not function. The rescue operations that followed showed another side of human nature that confused the aliens even more. The same soldiers who had laughed while using flame weapons against enemies now worked with gentle care to rescue trapped civilians. They shared their food with alien refugees and used their own medical supplies to treat the wounded. I don't understand, Commander Rexel confided to Zexthai. They fight like demons, but they protect civilians like parents protecting children. Admiral Chen's image appeared on their communication screen again. Ambassador Zexthai, we need to talk. Private channel. When the connection was secure, Admiral Chen's expression was serious. What we did here was just the beginning. The Devourers aren't just a random enemy. Someone made them. Someone pointed them at your galaxy and let them loose. That's impossible. The Devourers show no signs of central control. They don't need central control if they're following pre-programmed instructions. My science teams have been analyzing the wreckage. These things are following a pattern, consuming specific types of worlds in a specific order. That's not random behavior. Zexthai felt her crystal skin grow cold. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that the Devourers are a weapon system. And if they're a weapon system, that means they can be turned off. Or better yet, they can be reprogrammed. The implications hit Zexthai like a physical blow. You want to capture their control systems? Admiral Chen smiled. But this time it was not the cold smile from their first meeting. This was the smile of a predator that had found its prey's weakness. Ambassador, humanity doesn't just solve problems. We weaponize solutions. Before this war is over, the Devourers are going to learn what happens when they threaten species under human protection. The communication ended, leaving Zextai staring at the aftermath of the battle. The human fleet was already preparing to move to the next system under attack. But now she understood that they were not just responding to Devourer attacks. They were hunting. 3 weeks after the Kepler 442 victory, the Galactic Council received reports that changed everything they thought they knew about their human allies. The reports came from Council observers embedded with human fleet operations, and each one was more disturbing than the last. Ambassador Zexatai read through the files in her private office aboard the Council flagship. Outside her window, stars moved past as they traveled to another battle zone. But her attention was fixed on the words that glowed on her screen. "Human forces do not follow standard engagement protocols," wrote Commander Rexel in his latest report. "They appear to view warfare as both science and art. More concerning, they seem to enjoy combat in ways that are unsettling to observe." The second report came from Dr. Yeleth, the Council's chief military analyst. "Human weapon technology surpasses our understanding. Their plasma weapons operate at temperatures that should melt the weapons themselves. Their projectile systems fire ammunition at velocities that violate several known physics principles. When questioned about these technologies, human engineers simply say they made some improvements to alien designs they captured years ago. But it was the third report that made Zextai's crystal skin grow cold with fear. "Human research teams have been observed studying captured Devourer technology with enthusiasm that borders on obsession," reported Dr. Kexmore of the Xenotechnology Division. "They do not attempt to understand how Devourer systems work. Instead, they focus on how to make them more destructive. I observed human scientists cheering when they successfully increased a Devourer weapon's power output by 300%. A chime indicated an incoming message. Admiral Chen's face appeared on Zextai's communication screen. The human commander looked tired but satisfied. "Ambassador, we need to meet. I have something to show you that will interest the Council." An hour later, Zextai found herself aboard the human flagship UES Retribution. The ship's corridors were functional and stark, with none of the artistic decoration common on Council vessels. Human crew members moved with purpose and efficiency. But she noticed something that troubled her. They looked at her with the same calculating gaze their admiral used. Admiral Chen led her to what humans called the science deck. The area buzzed with activity as human researchers worked at stations filled with technology Zextai did not recognize. At the center of the room stood a massive transparent container, holding something that made her step backward in shock. Inside the container was a complete Devourer unit, but it had been modified. Additional weapons had been attached to its hull. Its optical sensors had been replaced with human-designed equipment. Most disturbing of all, human writing covered its surface. "What have you done?" Zextai whispered. "We've made improvements," said Dr. Marcus Webb, the human chief science officer. He was a thin man with wild gray hair and eyes that seemed to burn with curiosity. "The Devourers were well designed, but they lacked imagination. We fixed that problem." Dr. Webb gestured to the modified Devourer with obvious pride. "Enhanced plasma cannons, improved targeting systems, upgraded armor plating, and our personal favorite, the ability to repair itself using enemy wreckage instead of just random matter." "You've made it more dangerous?" "We've made it better," Admiral Chen corrected. "And this is just the beginning. Show her the real surprise, Doctor." Dr. Webb's smile grew wider. "We've cracked their communication protocols. Every Devourer in the galaxy is connected to a quantum communication network. They share information, coordinate attacks, and receive updates to their base programming through this network." The implications hit Zextai like a physical blow. "You're planning to hack into their communication system?" "Already did," Dr. Webb replied cheerfully. "Took us about a week. Devourer encryption is sophisticated but predictable. They never expected anyone to approach their security from a completely irrational direction." Admiral Chen moved to a control console. "Doctor, show the ambassador our test results." The main screen activated, showing a star system that Zexatai recognized as one recently attacked by Devourers. But instead of the expected scenes of destruction, she saw something impossible. The Devourer swarm was fighting itself. Unit Group Alpha received modified programming 3 days ago, Dr. Webb explained. They now identify other Devourers as hostile targets. Unit Group Beta is still operating under original programming and considers Alpha units to be malfunctioning. The result is a civil war that has been going on for 72 hours. You turned them against each other? Phase 1 testing, Admiral Chen replied. Phase 2 will be more interesting. The screen changed to show a different system. Here, Devourers were not fighting each other. Instead, they were building something. The massive construction project stretched across several asteroids and appeared to be some kind of weapons platform. Modified programming set 2, Dr. Webb continued. Instead of consuming matter to make more Devourers, they're using it to build defensive platforms. When complete, that system will have enough firepower to destroy any invasion fleet. Zexthai stared at the screen in growing horror. You've made them into your weapons. We've made them into everyone's protection, Admiral Chen corrected. The Devourers were created to consume and destroy. We're reprogramming them to defend and rebuild. But the ethical implications, Admiral Chen interrupted, are simple. Either we control this technology or it controls us. The Devourers were going to destroy your civilization. Now they're going to protect it. Dr. Webb called up another display. We've also discovered something fascinating about Devourer origins. The quantum communication network doesn't originate in this galaxy. The control signal is coming from somewhere else entirely. A galactic map appeared showing signal traces extending beyond the visible edge of known space. The traces led to a point marked with a pulsing red icon. The Devourer's creators live in a dead galaxy approximately 2 million light-years from here, Dr. Webb explained. Based on signal analysis, they've been running this program for a very long time, probably millions of years. They sent the Devourers to destroy us, Zexthai asked. They sent the Devourers to test you, Admiral Chen replied. Think about it logically. Why create a weapon system that converts defeated enemies into more weapons? Why make them smart enough to adapt but not smart enough to question orders? Why give them the ability to communicate across galactic distances? The answer came to Zexthai with terrible clarity. They wanted to see how civilizations would respond to an extinction-level threat. Exactly. And most civilizations failed the test. They were consumed, converted into more Devourers, and sent to test the next target. It's been going on for eons. Admiral Chen moved to stand in front of the modified Devourer, but they never tested a civilization like humanity. We don't just survive extinction-level threats. We weaponize them. What's your plan? Zexthai asked, though part of her did not want to know the answer. Dr. Webb's smile became almost predatory. We're going to pay the Devourer's creators a visit, and we're bringing their toys with us. The screen changed one final time, showing a fleet of human ships under construction, but these were not normal human vessels. They were built around captured Devourer technology, enhanced with human improvements and armed with weapons that existed only in nightmare scenarios. Admiral, this is madness. You're talking about traveling to another galaxy to fight beings that have been destroying civilizations for millions of years. Admiral Chen looked at her with those cold, calculating eyes. Ambassador, your people asked for our help because your civilization was facing extinction. We're not just going to save your civilization. We're going to make sure this never happens to anyone again. By becoming something worse than the Devourers, by becoming something the Devourers' creators never expected. A species that fights back. As Zexthai left the human flagship, she carried with her the knowledge that humanity had not just joined the war against the Devourers. They had escalated it beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The question that haunted her was simple. When this was over, would the cure be worse than the disease? The war had been going for 2 months when the Galactic Council learned the true extent of human capabilities. The revelation came not through official reports or military briefings, but through an emergency session called by panicked council observers. They're not following any known laws of warfare, reported Commander Rexel to the assembled council representatives. His feathered hands shook as he displayed holographic images of recent battles. The humans don't fight to win. They fight to eliminate. Ambassador Zexthai studied the battle footage with growing unease. In the images, human ships moved through Devourer formations like predators among prey. But these were not the same human vessels she had seen weeks earlier. These ships incorporated Devourer technology, enhanced with human modifications that made them faster, stronger, and more deadly than anything either species had originally designed. "Show them the Vega system report," Zexatai requested quietly. Commander Rexel activated another display. The images showed a star system that had been completely overrun by Devourers just days earlier. Now it looked like something from a nightmare. The Devourer swarm was still there, but they were fighting each other in a massive civil war that had spread across 3 planets. The humans infected the entire swarm with modified programming, Rexel explained. Half the Devourers now think the other half are malfunctioning. They've been destroying each other for 6 days straight. "Casualties?" asked General Korath. "Every Devourer in the system will be destroyed within 48 hours, Rexel replied. 0 human casualties. The council representative sat in stunned silence. Defeating a Devourer swarm without losing a single ship was something their best military minds had considered impossible. "There's more," Rexel continued reluctantly. "The humans have established what they call research stations throughout the war zone. These facilities are studying captured Devourer technology, but they're not trying to understand it. They're trying to improve it." Dr. Kexmore of the Xenotechnology Division stood up slowly. "I visited 3 of these research stations. What I saw there, the humans are not just modifying Devourer technology. They're creating hybrid systems that combine the worst aspects of both species' military capabilities. On the main screen, images appeared of weapons that defied easy description. Devourer plasma cannons enhanced with human targeting systems. Human missile technologies merged with Devourer self-repair capabilities. Most disturbing of all, entirely new weapon designs that seem to combine human creativity with Devourer efficiency. "They're making super weapons," whispered the representative from the peaceful Vegan system. "They're making solutions," corrected Admiral Chen's voice as she joined the communication feed from her flagship. The human commander appeared on the main screen, and her expression was grimmer than usual. "And those solutions are working. Devourer attacks have decreased by 60% in the last month. Because you're destroying them faster than they can reproduce," General Korath accused. "Because we're disrupting their reproduction cycle entirely," Admiral Chen replied. "Every Devourer we capture provides us with intelligence about their command structure. Every communication we intercept gives us access to more of their network. We're not just winning battles. We're taking control of their entire system." Zextai leaned forward in her chair. "Admiral, our observers report that your forces are now using captured Devourer units in combat." "Is this true?" Admiral Chen's smile was cold and predatory. "Confirmed. We call them reformed assets. Devourers that have been reprogrammed to fight for us instead of against us. The implications of this hit the Council like a shockwave. The humans were not just defeating the Devourers. They were converting them into allies. "Show them the Kepler 186 operation," Admiral Chen commanded. The screen changed to show recent battle footage from a system under Devourer attack. But instead of human ships engaging the enemy, the Council representatives watched in amazement as Devourer units fought against other Devourers. The converted machines moved with the same deadly efficiency as their unreformed cousins, but now that efficiency was turned against their former allies. "Reformed assets are 40% more effective than human weapons against unreformed Devourers," Admiral Chen explained. "They understand Devourer tactics, communication protocols, and weaknesses better than any biological species could." "This is abomination," declared the Altarian representative. "You're using our enemies' weapons against them." "We're using their own strength against them," Admiral Chen corrected. "It's called tactical efficiency." Dr. Webb's image joined Admiral Chen on the communication feed. The human scientist looked exhausted but excited. "We've also made a breakthrough in understanding the Devourer command structure. The quantum communication network that controls them originates from a massive relay station in a dead galaxy approximately 2 million light-years from here." A galactic map appeared, showing communication traces extending far beyond known space. At the center of the traces was a structure so large it defied comprehension. "The relay station is the size of a solar system," Dr. Webb continued. "It's protected by automated defense systems that have been active for millions of years. Based on our analysis, this is where the Devourer's creators reside." "You want to attack it?" Zextai asked, though she already knew the answer. "We want to capture it," Admiral Chen replied. The relay station doesn't just control the Devourers in this galaxy. It controls Devourer swarms in dozens of other galaxies. If we can take control of that station, we can end this threat everywhere. The council hall erupted in shocked voices. Representatives from dozens of species spoke over each other, expressing disbelief, fear, and outrage. The humans were proposing to travel to another galaxy and attack beings that had been destroying civilizations for millions of years. General Korath's 6 arms waved frantically. "This is insanity! Those beings destroyed entire civilizations before your species even existed. Those beings," Admiral Chen said quietly, "never faced a species like humanity." The human admiral gestured to something off-screen, and the main display changed to show a massive construction project. Hundreds of ships were being built in what appeared to be an artificial shipyard the size of a moon, but these were not normal ships. They were built around Devourer technology, enhanced with human modifications and armed with weapons that combined the deadliest aspects of both species' military capabilities. Preparation for the intergalactic mission began 3 weeks ago, Admiral Chen announced. "We estimate departure in 60 days. "You're building an invasion fleet," Zexthai realized. "We're building a liberation fleet," Admiral Chen corrected. "When we're finished, no species will ever again face the threat of extinction from artificial predators." Dr. Webb leaned forward eagerly. "We've also developed new technology specifically for this mission. Faster-than-light travel systems based on Devourer spacefold technology. Weapons designed to disrupt quantum communication networks. Most importantly, we've created viruses that can rewrite Devourer programming faster than their security systems can adapt." The council representatives sat in stunned silence, trying to comprehend what they were hearing. The humans were not just planning to fight the Devourer's creators. They were planning to steal their weapon system and turn it against them. "Admiral," Zexthai said carefully, "what happens after you control the relay station? What happens to all the Devourers throughout the galaxy?" Admiral Chen's smile was genuinely warm for the first time since their initial meeting. "They become our allies. Every Devourer in existence gets reprogrammed to protect and rebuild instead of consume and destroy. They'll help repair the worlds they damaged and defend against future threats. And if something goes wrong, if your mission fails," the warm smile disappeared, "then humanity dies fighting the good fight, and your species gets to find their own solution to extinction." The communication ended, leaving the council in shocked silence. Outside the great windows, stars moved past peacefully, unaware that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted forever. Zexthai looked around the council hall at the faces of representatives from 47 different species. All of them were thinking the same thing she was. They had asked humanity for help, and humanity had delivered something far beyond their expectations. The question now was whether they had unleashed salvation or created something even more dangerous than the Devourers themselves. The assault on the Devourer Command Nexus began exactly 60 days after Admiral Chen announced the mission. Ambassador Zexthai watched from the Council observation vessel as the human fleet prepared to enter the portal that would take them to the dead galaxy. The portal itself was a marvel of combined human and Devourer technology. The massive ring structure floated in space, crackling with energy that bent light around its edges. It had taken human engineers 3 weeks to build, using modified Devourer spacefold generators and power systems that drew energy from the local star. "Fleet status report," Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system. "All ships ready for intergalactic transit," replied her second-in-command. "Reformed assets report full operational status." Zexthai shuddered at the term reformed assets. The human fleet included over 200 captured Devourer units, all reprogrammed to fight alongside their former enemies. The sight of human ships flying in formation with Devourer machines still seemed wrong, despite their proven effectiveness in battle. "Galactic Council vessel, you are cleared to observe but not participate," Admiral Chen announced. "If things go badly, return immediately and warn your people." The human fleet entered the portal in groups, each ship disappearing into the swirling energy field. Admiral Chen's flagship, the UES Retribution, went last. Just before entering the portal, the human admiral sent one final message. "If we don't come back, remember that we tried to solve your problem the only way we knew how." Then she was gone and the portal collapsed behind her. The waiting began. For 3 days, the Council monitoring station detected nothing from the dead galaxy. Long-range sensors showed no signs of activity. Communication attempts received no response. The possibility that humanity's greatest military force had been destroyed crossing between galaxies began to seem increasingly likely. On the 4th day, signals began coming through. The first was a brief data burst that the Council's computers could barely decode. It contained star maps, energy readings, and what appeared to be battle reports. Dr. Kexmore worked frantically to understand the information. The fleet made successful transit, he announced to the anxious Council representatives. They encountered the relay station approximately 18 hours after arrival. The structure is immense, larger than our most optimistic estimates. What about the defenders? Asked General Korath. The automated defense systems were extensive. Based on these readings, the relay station was protected by millions of drone ships, weapon platforms that could destroy planets, and energy fields that could stop entire fleets. Was protected? Zexthai noticed the past tense. The tense is correct. According to these reports, human forces penetrated the outer defenses using a tactic they call aggressive negotiation. The phrase meant nothing to the aliens, but they would understand soon enough. More signals began arriving, and gradually the story of the assault became clear. The human fleet had approached the massive relay station not as invaders but as liberators. Instead of trying to destroy the defenses, they had hacked into them, turned them against each other, and caused the entire defensive network to collapse from internal conflict. But the real breakthrough came when human infiltration teams reached the relay station's central core. What they found there changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about the Devourers. The beings that had created the Devourer swarms were not evil conquerors seeking to destroy other civilizations. They were scientists conducting the largest experiment in galactic history. The Devourers were not weapons of destruction, but tests of evolution. For millions of years, they had sent the swarms to challenge civilizations throughout the universe. Most civilizations failed the test and were consumed, but a few had succeeded in defeating the Devourers, proving that they had evolved to a level worthy of contact with their creators. The test was designed to identify species capable of transcending their biological limitations and thinking beyond conventional solutions. Humanity had not just passed the test. They had exceeded it so completely that they had impressed beings who had been conducting evolutionary experiments for eons. The creators, who called themselves the architects, had been waiting in stasis for someone to reach their relay station. When the human infiltration teams arrived, the architects awakened and did something they had never done before in millions of years of testing. They surrendered control of their experiment to the test subjects. The relay station is now under human control. Dr. Webb's excited voice came through the communication system when regular contact was re-established. The architects have transferred operational authority of the entire Devourer network to Admiral Chen. Every Devourer unit in every galaxy is now receiving new programming. The magnitude of this revelation staggered the Council representatives. Humanity had not just saved their civilization, they had gained control of the most powerful force in the known universe. What will you do with them? Zexthai asked during a private communication with Admiral Chen. The human admiral looked tired but satisfied as she answered from the bridge of her flagship, now docked inside the massive relay station. We're going to do what humanity does best. We're going to solve problems. On the main screen, she showed Zexthai images of what was already happening throughout the galaxy. Devourer swarms that had been consuming worlds were now rebuilding them. Units that had been destroying civilizations were now protecting them. The machines that had represented extinction were becoming instruments of restoration. The Devourers are being reprogrammed for construction instead of consumption, Admiral Chen explained. They'll repair the damage they caused, then establish defensive networks around inhabited systems. Any future threats to galactic civilization will face an automated defense grid powered by technology millions of years more advanced than anything else in the universe. And the architects? Admiral Chen's expression grew thoughtful. They've asked to meet with representatives from every species in the galaxy. It seems they want to share what they've learned from millions of years of testing different civilizations. They're particularly interested in human problem-solving techniques. The image changed to show one of the architects, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix. It was beautiful, terrifying and completely alien. They've offered to teach us technologies that will allow any species to travel between galaxies, reshape matter at the molecular level, and communicate across unlimited distances. Admiral Chen continued. The only price is that we agree to help them test other galaxies, not to destroy civilizations, but to find worthy ones and invite them to join what they call the community of transcendent species. 3 months later, Ambassador Zexthai stood in the council hall watching children from a dozen different species play in gardens that had been created by reformed devourers. The machines that had once threatened to consume everything now tended parks, repaired cities, and protected refugee colonies with gentle care. The war was over, but the future it had created was beyond anything the galaxy had imagined possible. Do you think we made the right choice? General Korath asked as he joined her at the window. His 6 arms moved nervously as he watched human children playing alongside young aliens under the protection of machines that had once been their deadliest enemies. Zexthai considered the question carefully. We asked for support against an enemy that threatened our extinction. Instead, humanity delivered transformation. Are you satisfied with the result? She looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, human ships were traveling to other galaxies to seek out new civilizations and invite them to join the growing community of transcendent species. The Devourers flew alongside them now, not as weapons of destruction but as tools of exploration and protection. I think, she said quietly, we finally understand what it means to ask humanity for help. You don't just get what you need. You get what you never knew was possible. The future stretched ahead of them, vast and full of possibilities that would have been unimaginable before humanity answered their desperate call for aid. The galaxy had asked for support and received transformation. They had expected salvation and been given evolution itself. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, Admiral Sarah Chen continued doing what humanity did best, solving impossible problems in ways that changed the universe forever.